So I got the chance to try out the Battlefield 6 open beta this past weekend, and wow, this might truly be a return to form for DICE. Kudos to them because this is a goal that so many other AAA developers are failing to accomplish today. I had quite a lot of fun with the limited time I had, and I also took the opportunity to test out the game's performance on 3 different platforms: the popular 9800X 3D, the infamous 14900K, and also the neglected Core Ultra 9 285K. This game is hella CPU bound, and honestly guys, I had no plans to really make this video, but what really urged me to do so was when I saw ridiculous headlines like this all over my feed, and that made me very curious about the performance. So let's get into it.
Hey, if you enjoy content like this, drop a like, make sure to subscribe, and smash that bell so you never miss another video.
Hey, what is going on guys? Danny here, welcome back to the channel, and I hope you've all been doing well. The Battlefield 6 open beta was a heck of a lot of fun. It's been a while since I hopped on a multiplayer shooter and dropped into a match that immersed me in some chaotic warfare and still maintained a sober atmosphere where I didn't have to see a bunch of Nicki Minaj's running around with guns that look like super soakers. And I'm fairly confident in saying that a lot of people probably felt the same way. The open beta peaked at around 520k players, an open beta. And that's just Steam alone. We're not even talking about Xbox or the PlayStation Store or the EA app. And to put that into perspective, Call of Duty's all-time peak on Steam was just under 500k, on the Steam charts that is. So it's clear that DICE is doing something right, and that is simply listening to your community, your own power base, and adhering to the feedback well. They've got a great foundation here. All they have to do is just build on top of that. And I'm rooting for them because the multiplayer FPS shooter genre is in a desperate need of a shakeup. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, which is the main topic of this video and one of the biggest contributors to Battlefield 6's open beta being a big success, was how well they optimized this game. Now, typically DICE with the Frostbite engine has a pretty solid track record when it comes to optimization, and Battlefield 6 is no exception. I was already quite optimistic when we looked at the open beta's PC requirements. They had listed some fairly low-end specifications, and after speaking with some friends who were using some older hardware, we're talking like Ryzen 1000 and GTX 1070s, they were able to get a smooth and very playable experience. So that's great considering, EA has a pretty ambitious goal with Battlefield 6 in terms of the target player count that they want, and the only way to really do that is to make the game accessible to as many players as possible. You're not going to get that. You're really not going to reach that target if only the people who have the latest and greatest hardware can run the damn game. So in this case, kudos to them. They've done a great job here. But we're going to get more into the performance aspect of the game later on in this video. I was happy to see that when I had booted up the game, there was no upscaling like DLSS or FSR turned on by default or engaged in the default presets. And neither was frame generation. I mean, they are there if you need them, and they are helpful for those on older hardware, but native performance has been stellar. So much respect to the devs for that. And so that brings me to the part that really sparked my curiosity, because while my own experience with Battlefield 6's performance was excellent, I couldn't ignore the wave of early claims from certain tech outlets and social media posts saying that the Ryzen 7 9800X3D absolutely demolishes the 14900K by some massive margin. We're talking 30% plus faster headlines being thrown around like it was some undeniable fact. I mean, it could be. I hadn't tested it at that time. Therefore, I decided I would put this to the test myself. The game is very CPU bound and is heavily multi-threaded, where it will take advantage of all your cores, even at 1440p. I had spent some time playing the Battlefield 6 beta on my 9800X 3D system. Along with that, I had tested it on my 14900K, as well as the Core Ultra 9 285K. So 3 different platforms and some of the best and fastest CPUs you can get for them. Before we jump into the main comparison benchmarks, I did want to show you guys some performance from my own personal rig. And in this system, I use a 14900K, which I've tuned where I have its P cores locked to 5.7 GHz. Haven't touched the E cores, so they run at 4.4. It's installed on the Z790 Apex Encore, and I've got 48 gigabytes of DDR5 8000 CL34 memory, and the GPU I'm using in this system is the MSI RTX 5070 Ti Gaming Trio, which I've undervolted, so it runs at around 2900 MHz, and the memory is pushed to plus 2000 in Afterburner. Plus, I've got Mastered Ultra Instinct Goku in there, so that's like easily another exponential increase in power. Feel free to check out all the specs for my personal system and the test bench down in the description. So when I tested the game on my personal system, I was running at 1440p native and with all of the settings on low except for textures on high and mesh on medium. This is typically how I prefer to play my multiplayer FPS games because I'm prioritizing max performance rather than visuals. The first mode I tried, just to get the feel of the game, was the Initiation Breakthrough mode, which pairs you with other players against bots on the CAIRO map, as this would allow me to run around and stay alive longer since I am a scrub, and yet I still died a lot. But my first impressions from the performance was that it was very solid. In this scenario, I was averaging around 180 to 200 FPS, and the 1% lows were also very stable, as you guys can see from the frame time graph. And while I did have average metrics on my on-screen display, the lows especially are not really accurate because in this game, when you die, it takes you to the map screen where you have to choose to spawn to a certain point or on a teammate. And I noticed that if there was any drastic FPS or frame time dips, it was during that transition going from gameplay to the map itself. And I wasn't really resetting the averages every time I died, so do keep that in mind. But as you guys can see, it's very solid performance. The experience was overall quite smooth. And when I had experienced this, I knew that those tweets I saw online where people were claiming that the 14900K with a 4080 or 4090 was only averaging like 130 or 140 FPS were just straight up wrong. Also, guys, keep in mind that on my personal system, I don't have a dedicated capture card, so I was using the NVIDIA app to record, which I've done testing with recently and found when recording, it will tank your performance by around 3 to 5%. And then on top of that, we have hardware monitoring on, which can also hurt your performance and the lows a little bit too. I also tested in CONQUEST, which is a lobby full of actual players, and surprisingly, performance was just as good here. If not, I felt it was slightly better on this particular map. Right at the beginning of the mode and starting from the spawn points of the map, performance is quite high and I was averaging around 230 FPS, but as more and more players load into the map and we get closer into the mid sections where there's more action happening, the average does go down. Also, you might notice this from the gameplay that I'm showing, there's some weird hitching or rubber banding, and that's actually not performance related. That was this particular server having some lag. You guys will see that even during the areas where there's a lot more action going on, there's vehicles and there's a lot of explosion, performance is still quite high and overall very smooth and stable. I had no complaints, and my monitor only caps out at 165Hz, and I usually have it capped with reflex and G-Sync, so it'll basically always be locked and providing me with a very, very smooth and consistent experience. Alrighty, so let's move on to the main comparison between the 9800X3D, the 14900K, and the 285K. I did want to highlight some important specifications for the test systems. For the 9800X3D, it was overclocked using PBO2 and Curve Optimizer, allowing it to run at a steady 5.42 GHz, FCLK at 2167 with 32GB of DDR5 RAM that is running at 6200 megatransfers, CL28 with tuned timings, and we're using the MSI X870 Tomahawk. Also, you don't have to run the FCLK at a strict 1:3 ratio. I know someone's going to mention this in the comments. You can push it as far as you can. You just need to manually check for performance regression and for instability because of the error correction. And I did check mine, it's stable and it gives me the most performance at 2167. For the 14900K, I've got its P cores locked to 5.7 GHz, E cores at 4.6 GHz, and the ring at 5 GHz, running on the MSI Z790 Carbon Max Wi-Fi, paired with 48GB of DDR5 running at 7600 megatransfers, CL36. Because the Carbon is a 4-DIMM board, it can't tune the memory as well as the Apex Encore, which is a 2-DIMM board, but I still tried to push it as far as we could go here. Then for the Intel Arrow Lake part, the Core Ultra 9 285K, I've pushed the P cores mildly to 5.5 GHz, E cores are running at 4.9 GHz, the ring is at 4.1 with the D2D at 3.7 GHz, and the NGU at 3.4 GHz. So the 285K is pushed well beyond even the new Intel Core 200S boost feature that they introduced for motherboard manufacturers to implement in their BIOS a few months ago. I have it running with 48GB of DDR5, 8600 CL40 memory with tuned timings, and we have the MSI Z890 HTI Wi-Fi motherboard. And no, this video is not sponsored by MSI or anything, they've just been cool enough to hook me up with these boards for my own testing, so I am thankful for that. Now, I know someone will make a comment about how I am running more memory on the Intel parts. The game barely uses more than 12 gigabytes of system memory, so it really doesn't matter. And addressing the difference in memory speeds, I will always try my best to give the platforms the best memory speeds rather than going for normalized speed comparisons, as we're trying to compare best case scenarios for each platform. Aside from that, everything else is the same, and we have an overclocked RTX 4090 for the GPU. All systems were installed with a fresh, debloated copy of Windows 11 IoT Enterprise. And if you're someone who's sick and tired of Windows bloat, and you can't leave this ecosystem because your programs or work rely on it so much, I highly recommend going this route. It was such a breath of fresh air to be greeted with a Windows install with practically nothing. Just 5 apps were installed, and processes were in like the low 100s. No ads, no stupid location-based telemetry, just a clean operating system that does what you want it to do. Alrighty, so let's jump into the benchmarks, and for the comparisons, I tested at 1440p with high textures, and everything else on low, and this still allows us to get a good comparison and benchmarking CPU performance because, as I mentioned earlier, this game is very CPU bound. For this comparison, we have the CAIRO map in the initiation breakthrough mode, and what you guys need to keep in mind is that for this comparison, it's not going to be a total apples to apples benchmark, because trying to do that in this game, especially in an open beta, is very difficult. Even if I had loaded into the same spot and took the same route on the map, there's just so many other variables at play, such as how many players are in the match, how much action is going on at that certain moment. There could be a bunch of tanks in one run, one benchmark run may be completely empty, the other might be totally chaotic. So you have to keep in mind that this isn't going to be a one-to-one benchmark run comparison. I'm basically showing you guys gameplay recorded from all 3 processors. The other thing I'll remind you guys about is that for the average and 1% low metric, it's not going to be 100% accurate because, like I said, when you die, you're dropped into the map menu and then you have to be spawned back into the game, and I wasn't really resetting when I was doing that. I just let it run continuously, but I did notice that the biggest drops in frame rate came from those transitions from dying and spawning back in. But in regards to the performance, all 3 processors are able to offer a very smooth and totally satisfactory experience. I would say on average the 9800X3D is providing you with the highest raw FPS, but it's not anything drastic over the 14900K like those other reports. It's more like 10% faster, and you can see it's about the same margins in the lows. The Core Ultra 9 285K is clearly the slowest, but it's still able to provide you with a very smooth and playable experience, averaging around 200 FPS, which is kind of surprising because I thought it would be much slower, because I saw other people showing benchmarks of Arrow Lake parts, and they were getting like 130 or 120 FPS on average at 1080p, but then again, Arrow Lake out of the box is pretty bad, so with the tweaks I made to this chip, it really brings it to life. But honestly, for the vast majority of users outside of pro esports players, you could randomly give one of these systems to a gamer and probably hear no complaints from them. However, one thing I will point out though is that power draw, it's incredibly one-sided. Now to be fair, the 9800X3D is only an 8-core chip, whereas the 14900K and the Ultra 9 285K are 24-core parts, so obviously power draw is going to be higher. So with a 9950X3D, you'd also see much higher power draw as well. My buddy E-Rock on Tech tested the game on his 9950X3D and 5090, and I noticed the same higher power draw on his chip in his video as well. So yeah, this game will use every core you throw at it and really push the CPUs. As you guys can see, both Intel chips are hovering around the 170 to 190 watt mark. It's actually crazy. Okay, let's move on and talk about Conquest, because this is where the CPU dynamics shift a bit. Unlike the bot-heavy mode earlier, Conquest is full of real players, so the flow of combat, the chaos in firefights, the constant movement around objective all change the load pattern on the CPU. In these matches, the 9800X3D's advantage over the 14900K isn't as pronounced, and in some runs you'll notice that it actually dips slightly behind in the 1% lows. That's an interesting flip compared to the scripted mode, and it's suggested that when the workload is less predictable or more varied, like players clustering at one objective and then sudden explosions or vehicles or tanks rolling in, the Intel chip can close the gap. From the overlays, you can see that the average FPS across both the 9800X3D and 14900K remains in that 210 to 230 range, depending on the scene, with 1% lows staying impressively close, often within 5 to 10 FPS of each other. The Core Ultra 9 285K continues to trail about 10 to 15 FPS on average, but it still keeps 1% lows comfortably above 140 FPS, which means the gameplay experience remains smooth even in the busiest moments. Power draw tells another part of the story though. Again, the 9800X3D averages around 95 to 110 watts. The 14900K consistently pulls like 165 to 175. And then the 285K is sitting around 190 watts. So that's pretty crazy. This paints the 9800X3D as the efficiency king here, while the Intel's flagship parts trade efficiency for brute force consistency. Frame time stability is also excellent across the board, hovering around that 4.1 to 4.9 millisecond time, which means input response and visual fluidity are top tier for all three CPUs. The big takeaway for Conquest is that no matter which of these CPUs you have, you're in for a high refresh, ultra smooth experience with little to no dips during active gameplay. The differences are there if you really look closely at the numbers, but in actual feel, it's a win across the board, and I had a virtually identical experience. Now, if you are wondering about 1080p performance and why I didn't test on that resolution, I just wanted to test on a resolution that's more applicable to the demographic that's going to be using these types of processors. And also, when I did test 1080p performance with my 9800X3D briefly, I found that for the most part, performance actually doesn't improve that much because we're just so CPU bottlenecked in this game. So 1440p is still totally viable for testing CPU performance. Something else I wanted to point out to you guys was that when I had started testing using the 4090 on my test bench, I noticed that performance wasn't that much better than my 5070 Ti, and in my 5070 Ti review I did earlier this year, I found on average the 4090 to be about 20% faster, with both of them, max overclocked. But in Battlefield 6, it felt way closer than that. It felt like it was about a 10% difference in favor of the 4090. So I thought, maybe there was something wrong, but kudos to the good folks over at Tech Power Up for giving me the sanity check, because they had posted GPU benchmark data on their site for BF6, and it turns out that this game really favors the Blackwell architecture, which is what the 50 series is based on. So in their testing at 1440p, they found the 4090 was only about 9% faster than a 5070 Ti, and that lines up with my own findings. The last thing I did want to talk about was that if you're someone who's using these Intel parts with lots of cores, or even an AMD part like the 9950X3D, and you want to find a way to lower power draw without really getting into the nitty-gritty of undervolting and messing with settings in your BIOS, then what I would suggest is just cap your FPS to your monitor's max refresh rate, or whatever is within your G-Syncs or FreeSync range for your model. So after spending all this time testing, swapping CPUs, and running around in maps, getting myself blown up more times than I'd like to admit, I can say without hesitation, Battlefield 6 is in a fantastic place right now. The optimization work that DICE has put in is honestly refreshing to see, especially in a time where so many AAA games are releasing half-baked on PC. And whether you're rocking a Ryzen 9800X3D, a 14900K, or even the Arrow Lake 285K, you're going to have an insanely smooth, high refresh experience without having to massively gut your settings, rely on upscaling, or even frame generation. Sure, there are differences between the chips if you really zoom in on the numbers, but in actual gameplay that they're providing you with, they all deliver a kind of performance that, really lets you just focus on the match, the gameplay itself, and just have fun. And that's exactly what I did. From the first spawn to the last explosion, it felt like, classic Battlefield with chaotic warfare and the scale that made me fall in love with the series in the first place. And if DICE can keep building on this foundation that they've set up here, PC gamers are actually in for something very special. The FPS genre is about to get a major shakeup, and I'm now very much hyped up for the release that's going to be coming in October. So for now, that's going to be wrapping it up for this one, and we'll touch base in the next video.
If you guys found this video to be informative and entertaining, then leave a like. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. Be sure to check out the video description for cool links and ways to support the channel, such as using my Amazon affiliate link. And if you're interested in seeing more content like this, then consider subscribing. I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.